Super hot, super hot, super hot.
Superhot was a game I had never heard of. I guess it was just one of those games that didn't pop up on my radar and pass me by. But the way that I came to hear about it is thanks to a comment on my video about Firewatch. Now, I always ask in videos for recommendations about indie games that you love and things that you think I should take a deep dive into. A user called Sharkspray wrote a reply to one of my comments saying that their favourite game was Superhot. So it's thanks to you, Sharkspray, that I am making this video. And anybody else out there that's watching my videos, please do drop me your recommendations in the comments or join me on Discord. So the other day I was scrolling through PlayStation Now and suddenly I saw the name Superhot. And I remembered that comment from Sharkspray and I thought, well, what the hell? I've already paid for the subscription, what is there to lose? And as I say, I went into this game completely blind, and after playing it now, I can totally understand why this would be somebody's favourite game. It is brilliant, it's innovative, and for me, the most important thing is it is thought-provoking. It left me thinking about the story and the themes discussed long after I finished playing. And I suppose it also helps that it has a completely different angle on the first-person shooter genre. Hello everybody, I'm Roy McCoy, and welcome to this episode of the Indie Files. If you love indie games, well, you're in the right place, because in each of these videos I take a deep dive into an indie game and talk about what makes it special. And you might notice that this is the first episode that I have called and given the name The Indie Files. Now, I've been making these videos about deep diving into indies for a while, so I finally decided to name the series. So every time that you see this yellow cover and the words The Indie Files, well, you know what to expect. And in this episode, I am looking at the brilliant and surprising Superhot. And please do remember, drop me a like and do hit me up with a comment with your recommendations, as it really does help this video to grow. But now, let's talk about Superhot. For me, there are two things that make this game hit different, that make it really, really special. First of all, there's the delivery. This game has incredible mechanics and an amazing art style. But secondly, more importantly to me, is the story and the themes that it discusses. It makes it one of the most thought-provoking first-person shooters that I've ever played. Now, when I think of first-person shooters, I often think of some kind of fast-paced, run-and-gun shooter. Some of them are gore-fests, others they rely more on stealth, and from memory, some of them make a few too many Aliens references.
I like to keep this for close encounters. Check those corners.
On your feet, soldier! We are leaving!
Well, I suppose they only limited that referencing to one game.
Now.
Ugh, never mind. They're often violent, some are filled with blood, and overall, they tend to be fun. And if you're as old as me, when you think of an FPS, your mind might even lead you to think of this. Good times. Now, Superhot takes that concept of fast thinking and speed that so many of those first-person shooters rely on, and flips it on its head. Now, obviously, I said that the thought-provoking nature of the story is what makes it truly special for me, but I'd be silly not to mention how amazing the action is, because the game's action only moves when you do. If you don't move, time stops. The movement stops, the action stops, well, sort of almost. There is a tiny bit of movement, but do nothing and the game slows down to a crawl. What this means is that every move, every shot you make, becomes carefully planned. It becomes more like a puzzle game masquerading as a first-person shooter. There are enemies in specific positions at the start of each level, and you have to choose the path you take to avoid getting hit, because one hit, one shot, and that level starts again. You may attack a person to force them to drop their weapon so that you can grab it and shoot another enemy across the room, which is oh so cool. And then straight after that, you round on the person recovering from your punch that you stole the weapon from to finish them off. Now, I won't be adding anything new to the echo chamber about this game if I say that it is the most effective representation of bullet time from The Matrix. This game is effectively Neo meets John Wick to make it a massive Keanu Reeves reference. But I think I need to say that because fundamentally it is brilliant. The slowing down of that time makes this an ultimate power fantasy, but unlike most first-person shooters which choose to turn you into this kind of Rambo-style hero who doesn't die to make you feel powerful, this time device, this is what makes you feel in complete control due to the planning of your moves. And that comment comes with a massive sense of irony, because that idea of control, that theme, is what makes this game so thought-provoking. And as much as I don't want to say these words, it really is one of the most innovative shooters I have ever played, and you'll understand exactly why I did not want to say those words if you've played it. And one of the most wonderful things about it is its art style. It's all delivered in such a simple way. It uses 3 bold colours. Red is used for enemies, black is used for weapons or throwables, of which you can throw many different things, and these black things can be used to hurt the red things, and white is for the levels or backdrops and pretty much everything else. The levels are also so well designed, and enemies are always, like I said, in the same positions, meaning that after a series of trial and error playthroughs, because you're gonna die and you will die a lot, you can learn the way to have a perfect run of the level. So you learn which enemy to disarm first, which to kill first, and so on. The most important thing to learn is that if you hit an enemy who's carrying a weapon, they drop it, and then you can grab it, and then you can kill them or somebody else. The game also has a sense of progression, and later on you can also teleport inside and take control of an enemy as your conscience moves from body to body. Now, something interesting that I really noticed about this game on a technical level is there's no music in the game, just sound effects. But I never really noticed that it felt quiet, and that's probably due to how immersed I was in the experience. I was always listening out for sound effects of things like guns firing so that I knew when to dodge. Now, if I had to levy a criticism or any criticism at this game, I would say that it is a little bit on the short side. Now, that didn't really bother me because it was included in PlayStation Now, but I suppose if you were buying this game and you've got to this point in the video and it sounds like something you're intrigued in, well, that's something to consider because this game is pretty short. But once you complete the game, and like I said, it has a phenomenal story and not all experiences need to be bloated, is that it also opens up an endless mode, which means that you can play this game basically unlimitedly, and also there are some challenges to get through. So overall, I did spend a long time on this game beyond the story. But like I said, for me, the reason that this game is truly special is the themes that it discussed and the story that it told, so now I'm going to talk more in depth about that. So I suppose I need to say that if you haven't played the game and you do want to play it, or it looks like something you might want to buy, well, maybe you should turn off the video now and watch it later because this bit is going to be filled with spoilers and I don't want to be the guy that ruins it for you. So, spoilers in 3, 2, 1. So the main theme of the game quite clearly is control, control, control. Now let's first look at the main story. Your character comes into the knowledge of this game Superhot when it's recommended in some kind of internet chat room by a friend. And over the course of the game you reach the end point where you upload your consciousness into some kind of AI, becoming a binary format. You lose your individuality, you're assimilated into part of a collective conscious, like something like the Borg. And while this part of the story can be interpreted in many ways, like for example it could be some kind of rogue AI trying to take control of the human race, or an evil corporation who created an AI who wants to control everybody, I don't think it's important for me as to which way you interpret, because the theme of control was established for me. But let me know in the comments below because I'd love to chat more about this game in which way you interpreted the main story. But as I said, for me, the main themes of control came through the character and the player. Now let's talk about that character. Now clearly once your friend recommends it, your character becomes totally interested, and over the course of the game, well, you become addicted. You can't say no to the game. You say you always need to get back into it to keep playing it. Now addiction, that theme of addiction is all about control. It is the loss of control to say no as you come under the control of something else. Once you're addicted to something, that thing, that vice has your control. Then of course during the course of the game you're forced at some point to kill your corporeal form. But actually the theme here that's really discussed and was really impactful was this idea of ultimate submission. You are giving up your body. Another thing that's really interesting that the game demonstrates this lack of control is through the typing. Now, as I said, you meet your friend who recommends the game to you in some kind of internet chat room. When you're messaging your friend in the early stages, you have full control. But then later on it gets replaced. You write one thing and the AI, Superhot, replaces it with some other kind of sensical text. It makes sense and you offend your friend, but that isn't the weirdest point. Later on when you're typing again, you lose complete control and the only thing you type is the word Superhot, Superhot, Superhot over and over again. So clearly the idea that your character slowly over time is losing their control before they do upload themselves into the machine is really intriguing, and then it comes the idea that these characters that you're killing, the enemies that you're killing are effectively trying to prevent you from uploading. Maybe they're not the enemies, but they're trying to help you. It's something that's really intriguing for me. But now let's talk about you as the player. Now, this is when the game got really interesting for me, because it attacks you with the theme of control as well. First of all, what you'll notice early stages is that at the end of each level, it tells you to actively press a button to hand over the control. Now, the fact that it forces you to press a button is the ultimate form of control, because without you pressing that button, without you doing what the game tells you to do, well, you can't move on. And the fact it says hand over control is really intriguing. And then continuing on this theme of control that the game discusses so well, early stages, the game consistently tells your character to stop playing. It tells you to quit. But later on, it tells you as the gamer to quit. It tells you to go to the menu and stop playing. So, I did. I pressed quit, and it wouldn't let me. It stripped me of my control, it took away my power. Now for me, it reminded me a little bit of something like the effect of Psycho Mantis from Metal Gear Solid. It probably didn't impact me as much as it did back then because I'm a little bit older, but it really worked on a meta level because I effectively felt trapped by the game. And the only way that you can finally win this game is by committing the ultimate act of submission and putting your character into that consciousness. And that for me is just how the game discusses the theme of control inside the game. But like I said, it really made me think for hours afterwards, and that is something that I absolutely love getting out of a game. Now, the theme of control and individuality is a common theme in our everyday lives. Firstly, in dystopian literature, it's filled with references to uniformity, a lack of individuality. Think of something like Orwell and Big Brother, some malevolent force or system that is designed to control us. And in sci-fi, we often see AIs taking control or enslaving or killing us, stripping us of our dominance. I mean, you only have to look at that reference I made earlier to the idea of the Borg, the idea that you're being assimilated into this huge collective, losing who you are and effectively dying while your body continues to live. And to be honest, I find the idea of the Borg absolutely terrifying, but it's not the only one. Look at Skynet. These types of books and films, they peddle the idea of fear that we are losing control, but it isn't just limited to fiction. It's in the news, like the idea of identity theft, someone stealing who we are. And then there are stories in the papers about nanny states taking control, making our choices for us, not trusting us to make our own choices. This idea of loss of individuality is strongly linked to control. And I think it's best summed up at the end of Superhot with the words "one of us," and it's telling you that you're no longer unique. But then why is control so important? Well, we're all in control of our own destiny. We make the calls in our own lives, don't we? Well, the idea that we don't, the idea that we could be sheep, it offends us and it scares us. But first of all, let's look at how you found this video of mine that you're watching. Well, it was probably recommended to you one way or another by the YouTube algorithm. Like an AI, it wants you to watch. It wants you to spend as much possible time as you can on the platform. So what the algorithm does is chooses videos that it thinks that you're going to watch and you'll stay here for. It's about keeping you here. It's about control. Then think about the adverts, tailored ones that you see on things like Facebook. They're designed to influence you, to strip away some level of decision making and sort of control you. Then the language of advertising is something that people like Chomsky talk at great lengths about. Some of them are just designed perfectly to trigger you emotionally. And now let's talk about choices, making decisions. Well, that's difficult. It's tough. Ask yourself, have you ever heard about somebody who'd promised they'd change or do something different? How many people have you heard that slip off the wagon and maybe they're going to write a book or start a new career? It's hard to have the courage to break away. It's why some of us spend so long on things like YouTube videos, looking for advice or buying self-help books. We look for guidance. And then, what about our beliefs? Now, we like to think that our ideas are unique, our beliefs are our own. But then a lot of people have the same ones. It's the idea that these ideas are basically taught to us and we adopt them rather than that we have them. And when you think about that, it's frightening. Because what if we only have the mere illusion of control? And I think that's why Superhot is brilliant. I mean, yes, of course, it's amazing technically, but the story made me think on such a deep level about this idea of control, and that is the mark, in my opinion, of a great game. And on a final note, on a meta level, I mean, at the end of the game, when you finally are assimilated into the consciousness, you're told to go out and share this game, to encourage other people to play it. It tells you to tell people that it is the most innovative shooter that you've ever played. And in some ways, it's kind of cheeky that the devs asked me to do that, but to be honest, it really is that innovative. And what am I doing? I'm doing what the game told me to do. And yeah, I totally believe it, but in some ways, like I said earlier, I didn't want to say it because I was submitting control. It feels like I don't have control. And then I suppose on another level, well, when you think about it, I never would have played Superhot if it hadn't been for Shark Spray. They recommended it to me, so in some ways, I didn't even have control over the video or the game that I played because I played it because of a recommendation, which in my mind, well, that's mind-blowing. So, totally, this is thanks to Shark Spray one way or another that this video ever got made. But I do have to say, I'm really glad I played it and I discovered such an innovative and incredible game. I had to use that word again, didn't I? But honestly, this game made me think for hours afterwards. And that is what makes Superhot great. Let me know in the comments below what you think about Superhot, or if indeed there is another game that you think I should play. Maybe you can control my next video, and please do remember to smash that like button and also check out some of my other videos. Remember, you're the one in control. But from me today, all it leaves me to say is thank you very much for watching, and this is Roy McCoy, out!